So where did you begin to see the idea of integrating your faith in and your business into one experience? Because I know you write about that and you wrap it around this concept of purpose. And so when did that begin to make sense and where did you go with it?
Yeah, no, that's excellent. So I left that conference, changed my major to business, and then I applied to Tulane University's business plan competition with this idea. Even applied for a grant. I got grant funding. They gave me just a decent bit of amount of money, which I eventually used to help start the business. But got in the business plan competition. I got a lot of good feedback. And I realized, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to do a similar business to Tom's Shoes, except buy one, give one. And I'm going to partner with a faith-based nonprofit. And it'll just be different. Like, we're not helping shoes, but we're giving, in this space. And that was the model for me. And I thought, wait a second, I think this could work. And this was in the early days of this. I know nowadays so many companies are doing this in the faith-based space. At the time, that really wasn't happening. So it was a really novel idea at the time. So that's where I began to think, oh, that's how you do it. You buy one and you give one. That's how you make a difference. If you're not doing buy one, give one, you're probably not making a difference. That's where my mind was at the time. I'll tell you, it's changed.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So effectively, what I ended up doing, crazy journey, but I was really still struggling. I'll be honest, Mike. I was struggling. I thought I need to join a nonprofit and volunteer. Like the conferences I would go to, different people I talked to, it just seemed like if I really am going to be all out for making a difference, living out my purpose, I can't be doing this in the business world. Even though I changed my major, it was like, this is a second class calling. That's what I thought. It's a second class calling to be in the business world. It means that I'm not surrendered enough. That's just what it means. If I was really surrendered and I was really all in, I join a nonprofit, I join a mission organization, I would do something like this. And I struggled. I really, really struggled. I ended up pursuing my master's in accounting with the vision of becoming an expert in numbers so that one day I can engage in entrepreneurship and make this difference in the world. Yeah, I had this realization, that business could be more than about just making money, more than just about profit seeking, but could really be a platform for purpose and making a difference in people's lives. So at Tulane University, I applied for the business plan competition. I got into it, got really good feedback, also got a grant, which was awesome. And then eventually used that to start my own business. And I'll talk a little bit more about that business in a bit. But that was effectively the journey. I realized, wait a second, business can be used as this platform. So I created this business plan. And I had this vision of one day starting this business. Ultimately, that led me to pursue my master's in accounting. And at the end of my master's in accounting, or during that time, I was really struggling with this idea that I really felt like I needed to be in the nonprofit space. I needed to be a volunteer or maybe be a missionary or missions organization, something like that. That was just the people around me. It just felt like if I was going to live to the fullness of my potential and my calling, and that's what I needed to do. And
so you're not saying that you feel like God was telling you this. This was just the vibe of where you were living and who you were with at the time. And
yeah, I think just the culture and just kind of expectations. Like, man, if I'm really sold out, all in, want to live my life to the fullest, like, I can't be in the business world. Like, that's a second class calling. That just means I didn't have enough faith, or I wasn't surrendered enough, if you want to say that, to live to the fullness. You're like, to really go all in. And that was the tension I was feeling. Even as I'm getting my master's in accounting, undergrad in finance, even though I really felt like I wanted to start this business, I just had these recurring thoughts of, wait a second, I think I'm settling for something less than. Until this is kind of crazy. So I was signed up to join a nonprofit volunteer organization. I was going to be in Africa. I was going to be all over the world for about a year. I signed up for that while I've already interviewed for a CPA job in Atlanta. And I just thought to myself, man, I don't think I want to do this CPA job. Like, I'm selling out. I'm going to be in the business world doing number stuff. Like, this isn't it. I could go be in the villages. I could be helping people, transforming lives. So I felt this tension. Well, a week before graduation, my brother pulls me aside and he challenges me and he says, Sean, if you're called to the business world, it's not a lesser calling than this nonprofit world.
I like your brother a lot already, I can tell you.
He just challenged me and I was like, Connor, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And he said, hey, would you just surrender that? He just some form of words like that. And man, I just thought, okay. I surrender to the possibility that the business world could be a higher calling or for myself than what I was expecting. And Mike, you know what's crazy? I interviewed with that firm. I think it was a month beforehand. I hadn't heard from them at all. Within 1 hour, I got a call from the head partner right after that. Called me and said, Sean, I've got a position for you in Atlanta, Georgia. It won't start till January. So you got like 7 or 8 months to knock out your CPA exams. Would you be interested? And I was able to give a wholehearted yes.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. What a wonderful thing that God would affirm that for you and have a brother that would challenge you. I understand the voices around you. I do. We all deal with that.
Yeah.
But your brother became the voice of God in that, and then the stamp of, okay, God saying, "See, I got you, Sean." That's beautiful, man. What a great story.
It was powerful. And then, then I was like, okay, I've jumped off the cliff, essentially. Like, there's no going back up there anymore. Like, I'm in it now. And, so then but what ended up being really cool was then I said yes to that. And then I get to go spend 3 months with crew in San Diego, which was just amazing. So I got to do a little bit of both of what I wanted to do. So joined the nonprofit, got to do that. It was a blast. And then I moved to Atlanta. And can I tell you a little bit about Atlanta, my experience there?
You bet. That's my hometown. You can always talk about Atlanta to me.
So I moved to Midtown, loved it. Got there. Right when I got there, I had my own apartment. It was in Midtown. Then my brother calls me up and he's like, Sean, he said, I just got into SCAD and it's in Atlanta. Can I move in with you? And I was like, I got a 1-bedroom apartment. Sure, move in with me. So he moves into my apartment and it was a blast. But anyway, during that time, it was awesome. I was an auditor, great people to work with, great, everything. I was so grateful. But something started to feel a little out of place for me as I worked in that space. I just remember, I think it was my first week of work, hearing that somebody was getting a divorce and not office. And I was like, okay, I guess that's kind of normal. That happens in life. But that as time went on, I just realized, not just at where I was working, but just in general in Atlanta, I was seeing, man, I feel like I'm surrounded by people that are making a good amount of money, and it seems like they just succeeded, but it just seems like so many of them are living for the weekend. They're living for some, this work is just a means to give them 2 days on the weekend. And this just really troubled me. It kind of bummed me out. And, I made it to the senior level as an auditor. I was so grateful for my time there. Loved the people I was with. But I had an encounter that changed the trajectory. Again, another one of these encounters, call it a spark. The psychology literature calls these purpose moment sparks. But I had this spark. I was working working like crazy at this one firm, super big firm. And I'm in the audit room, and the CEO of the company comes in. If I said the company, you know who it is. But he comes into my office. I'm like, what is he doing here? And he looks at me. He shuts the door behind him. It's just me. And he looks at me in the eyes and he says, what do you really want to do? And I was like, oh my gosh. And then we ended up saying, if you tell anyone this, I won't say who it is, but he said, if you tell anyone this, I'll deny it to my grave. And I was like, okay. And he looked at me and he said, what do you really want to do? And I told him, I said, I want to be involved in entrepreneurship and use my creativity. And he looked at me and he said, you need to quit. He used some additional words I won't repeat here, but he just said, you need to quit. And he said, I've seen too many people make just enough money staying in a job that is not the fullness of what they feel called to, maybe their purpose. And he said, they pay you just enough and you'll just keep going and going and going and going. And he said, you don't need to do that. And he told me about his journey in entrepreneurship. Then he took me up to his executive suite, showed me, talked about how he lived on a mattress and just challenged me. I was like, man, and it clicked for me. And I thought, wait a second, life is too short to just live comfortably when you have a calling. And that just challenged me to my core. I went to senior training. And while I was there, I just realized I just know that I need to step out of this. I'm so grateful. I always had a heart. I was open to, possibility of staying in that world, but I just knew it was time to go. I ended up leaving and I moved back to Louisiana to eventually start this clothing line. But before I left Atlanta, I had another encounter that I just have to share. And this has impacted me for the rest to this day. I woke up one morning and just had this clear thought. I thought, I need to go to this restaurant in Midtown Atlanta. I woke up and I didn't know why, but it was just like really clear thought. And I was like, I think I need to go there. Maybe just like sense, leading a Lord or whatever. I walk out and I see this man walking across the street. I think he maybe doesn't have a home. He's begging. And I just had this deep thought. I need to invite him to breakfast. So I walked up to him and I said, can I invite you to breakfast? And he said, yes, I'd love to go to breakfast. So, Mike, I ended up sitting down with this guy for about 2 hours. He lives in the streets of Atlanta. And what he told me, I'll never forget. He told me, he said, he just sees the people in the business world. He said, they're living so fast. He said, they're so stuck in the future of what they want to accomplish and things like this, that they're missing the present and the people around them. He said, or some people have pains of the past, and it's like a ball and chain. They're so stuck in the past that they can't live in the present. And he just challenged, yeah, yeah. And he says they get stuck in the past. And he said, we need to live in the present and be thankful. And he challenged me with this one line. And I've honestly, it's been every month, I think, for a decade, that at least I thought of him, if not every week. And he said, when you see the flowers, remember to be thankful. And I can't look at flowers and be the same. It just brings me back to this moment of present. Because I think sometimes when we have this drive, I want to make an impact, I want to live with mission, live with purpose, we can be so future oriented that we sometimes miss the people around us. And I've heard, stories of, I know one mentor of mine, a story, being a pastor, with a pastor, and the guy was so focused on helping the community around him, he didn't take care of his family, didn't take care of his wife who was struggling, and they ended up getting a divorce. And I just heard so many stories of this, of we need to walk in our calling, need to walk in our purpose. If we get so future oriented, we can miss the present and the people around us. And so that's something that's near to my heart. There's a book called The Spiritual Danger of Doing Good by Peter Greer. I've read so much the last 5 or 6 years of my PhD.
Yeah, Peter's a great author too, and a great brother.
Oh, it's my favorite book I think I've read the last 5 or 6 years. And it's just challenged me to my core as I'm challenging people to walk in purpose, even fulfilling for myself, to realize, man, this can be really dangerous if it becomes about me. So that's a little bit of the summary of how I saw this kind of come together. I ended up launching my business, which was awesome. But I hit a pivotal moment, Mike, that I think you might be interested in. Is we had a buy one, give one model with a really big nonprofit. It was awesome. So we'd sell our products, sell our shirts. We ended up creating a clothing line called Good Word Co., which was really comfortable, easy to see, easy to wear apparel. We put a Bible verse in the inside neck of the shirt so that the wearer would know what it meant. But to the outside world, it was just an encouragement, like be brave or be hopeful and things. It was awesome. But I had a moment where I was giving to the nonprofit. I clicked it. We gave a good amount of money for our organization. I just thought, wait, there's got to be something more to this. Okay, there's got to be something more. And at the time, I was doing management consulting as well with entrepreneurs. And I just saw your everyday business owners making an impact in the lives of employees. I saw how much their simple products were impacting people. And I started to realize maybe business, can make a difference in the world, even if you don't have a buy one, give one model. So it was almost like this new layer of business. I thought, okay, business is greedy unless you have a buy one, give one. Then all of a sudden I realized, wait a second, maybe if you own a business and you're providing value for other people, you can make a difference in this way too. So it unlocked another layer. So I'll pause there.
No, but I love that because it's your journey is a fun one. It's like that God just keeps, we think about a rheostat, a dimmer switch, and he just keeps turning the light, the brightness up a little bit, and you're seeing something new, and you're walking in that. Yeah. And then he shows you the next thing, but it's all part of the journey. And I want to encourage you. It's just, for me, it's so affirming to see a young brother who is following those, I'll call them revelations, illuminations, whatever the right term is, but you're following each one as it comes, and your journey just keeps unfolding. And for me as an older brother, that is really, that gives me hope for the next generation. And I mean it in a good way, not a condescending way, that you're like the real deal, man. And but I know it doesn't stop there because you got more to the story. So please keep moving.